Coming up, Color, Instagram, Verizon, Rebecca Black, my case of Natalie Portman's mistaken identity. All that and more on the first episode of The Social Hour.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Video bandwidth is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is episode 1 of The Social Hour, recorded Monday, March 28th, 2011. This episode of The Social Hour is brought to you by Go to My PC. Think remote access to your PC or Mac is complicated? Think again! It's easy with Go to My PC. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomypc.com. And by FreshBooks, the easy online invoicing service that gets you paid quickly and makes you look professional. Get started with a free package at freshbooks.com. Welcome to The Social Hour from Petaluma, California. I'm Sarah Lane.
And from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, I'm Amber MacArthur.
Hi, Amber. How are you?
Sarah.
Welcome
I'm
to our
doing
new
great.
show.
I know. It's so exciting. We have been talking about this for a couple of weeks.
We have.
And, I think it's the next evolution for Net at Night. We've had a couple of different names over the past few years, and it seemed like a natural fit, especially for both of us, that we just love all of the stuff that's happening in the social media world, that we can put all of that into one show and be able to chat about it. And we have a new time. But as I understand, Sarah, people who subscribe to the feed, there won't be any issue. They won't have to resubscribe. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. The only thing that will be different, and folks who used to watch around the net, or is it inside the net?
Oh, it's Inside the Net and then Net at Night.
Inside the Net turned into Net at Night, and folks that had watched both of those shows might recall that there was some discrepancy on the numbering, because so the episodes kind of went back from the very first Inside the Net, and then when it became Net at Night, then there was some episode. Basically, the short story is we're going to start from episode 1. So this is
that's great.
The Social Hour episode 1. However, if you were subscribed to Net at Night, the feed, it will just roll over. If you don't like the new show, I mean, you can obviously unsubscribe, but we hope you won't, and we hope that you continue to enjoy the show. But yeah, we will just want to make it as easy as possible for folks who were like, well, how many clicks do I have to, get through here? Not many. It should be pretty seamless. Yeah. So,
and I think for people out there who are just wondering kind of what the type of stuff that we're going to end up talking about, I think we're going to focus the show a little bit more on, some how-to content. So Sarah and I will have great tips for all of you who are wondering how you use, the latest tool in the social media space, how you integrate it with your Facebook page, the hottest new applications that are out there, but all looking at everything from a social angle.
Exactly. And I think that will help us. As we talked a little bit about this before the show, it's like Net at Night, it's so broad that it's like, well, what do you put into the show? I mean, you just, pick a bunch of stories that are interesting, and internet is such a broad term. Social is also a very broad space online, but it does give us a little bit more of a very absolute direction. We're very social people. I always tell folks, I love the story that you and I don't actually know each other in real life. We are social network friends.
It's true. We have never met.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's the perfect, this is the perfect platform for us because we use these tools. We love these tools. We can vouch for these tools actually creating meaningful relationships online. And, it's great. It's a whole vast world of goodness.
It sure is. Lots to talk about today, too. Holy cow.
Absolutely. Should we start with the app that incites rage and confusion among many?
Yes.
And others seem to like it a lot. Color. Have you played around with Color much, Amber?
Okay, Sarah, you're going to laugh your head off at this.
Okay.
So I wrote an article about Color last week, and I had read so many great reviews of it, talking about this is kind of the next generation of social networking. It's a photo app that will connect you with people, who are nearby, and I thought this sounds really, really fascinating. Mm-hmm. So I downloaded it, and then I went to start using it, and then I decided that, you know what? I really don't want to give it my location, and I really don't want to share photos like that. It just had a creepy feel to it. Similar, I think, in my mind, kind of like chat roulette. Just at first glance, I thought this is a cool service, but then I thought, okay, well, you know what? I like a little bit more privacy than that. However, like you mentioned, there are people out there who are just raving over this.
Yeah, so this is, if you want to take a look at how color looks, I've got an iPhone. It's iPhone and Android, so I will give color a pat on the back that off the bat they were at least able to launch both, because there are so many iPhone-only applications, Instagram being one of my favorites, where they say, Android coming soon, but they're very vague about it, and it leaves a lot of users out in the cold. So this is, if I were to want to take a picture right now, that's a very nice picture of me, really good angle. So I'll go ahead and say, okay, yeah, we'll take that one. Yeah, very nice. And I'll go ahead and post it. And at this point, people who are in my immediate vicinity, physical vicinity, should be able to see this picture of me pop up in their area because they're nearby. It's all based on geolocation. So you do have to tell color where you are. It's the only way that it'll work. Now, this is actually some of my history. Here's what's weird about, and so this is also something that bothers me a little bit about color. So you look down here and it's like, what do these icons mean? There's some sort of yin-yang type of a thing here. Okay, let's go ahead and click on that. That seems to be the picture that I just took. And I look to be near someone named Travis, who took a picture at 7 a.m. nearby. Ooh, that is nearby. I know where that is. And then if you go over to the timeline here, this looks like a bunch of the picture that I just took here Monday on the 28th, some stuff that I took on the 27th. We'll get to that in a minute. If I click that again, now I've got sort of a timeline of photos that have been taken by my friends. And this is where it gets kind of complicated, because it's not only people who are your friends on Color, but people who maybe you were nearby a couple of days ago, even if you've never met them, then comments that they make on other people's photos start to show up here. Like some guy that I've never met before commented on someone named Wonder Woman's picture. And I don't know why I'm seeing any of this stuff. I don't know these people at all. So my beef with Color, Amber, is that it's really confusing. And it kind of looks nice, and it's like, well, this is kind of an interesting, compelling thing. You all go to an event, you go to a Britney Spears concert, and everyone's taking pictures, and supposedly everyone's pictures would be showing up in this color group. But it's not very intuitive. I mean, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just clicking around half the time.
Clicking around. Yeah, and I think that was part of the issue when I was just, started to play around with it a little bit, is it didn't seem that intuitive, and I really didn't see a need for it in my life necessarily. Mm-hmm. However, I will say, I mean, again, it kind of reminds me even of the early days of Twitter when I used to follow people, and people would say to me, why are you following all these people? I mean, why do you care what these random strangers are doing? And the reality is, you just followed them, and it became interesting over time, and you would just ignore it if it wasn't. The thing I find about photos and the location is just, it's adding that extra level of sort of like your personal history in terms of where you are all the time that I guess I'm just not comfortable with it. I know that I'm not alone, but it's just a little bit too much.
I think, there's a voyeuristic thing that Color is clearly embracing. They want people to overshare. They want the idea of being in a restaurant and saying, oh, is that Matt? Maybe I'll say hi to this stranger named Matt who appears to be the guy that took the picture of the back of my head or something like that. So I think that there's a little bit of, ooh, isn't this fun and new and exciting? And you get the idea that this could be extremely helpful if you wanted to use the sort of the power of the masses if there was an earthquake and a bunch of people were taking pictures of a bridge or something, that if you get a lot of people together in one place that can throw up a bunch of pictures into an area, that could be useful. So I actually, on Saturday night, a bunch of friends and I went out. We were hanging out. We all decided to just overload a color group with a bunch of pictures. So this gives you an idea of, this is a very silly example, but it gives you an idea of what this would look like. This, by the way, is the link that I ended up tweeting out of all the pictures that we took. We went a little crazy because we just wanted to see how the service worked and how it could handle a huge load of pictures. As you can see, as the night goes on, it gets a little weirder. In fact, this is what I looked like at the end of the night, which is not good. I was very tired. I was
tired.
For
our listeners, she still looks great.
I was tired of using Color at that point. It was very late. We were getting kicked out of the bar. But this is the link that was tweeted out, and I mean, I tweeted it out very early in the night. Maybe we had taken about 5 pictures, so we were kind of down at this point, right? And what's cool is that the link stays live. So as the night goes on, if somebody were to see my tweet 4 hours later, well, we might have been up at this point by then. Later on in the evening when we all started dancing and eating chicken wings. So that's kind of cool. I mean, this was a silly example of how color works, but I could see where if you were really interested in seeing a bunch of pictures from a bunch of folks who were in a certain venue at once, and they had at least been using the same group as we were here, my friends and I, it could be kind of cool. And you could jump in or out of the experience whenever you wanted to.
I think I totally agree with you. To me, and this will be the last thing I'm going to say about color, because to me, it works perfect at an event. So if there's a big event, and I've heard people talk about advertisers potentially loving an app like this, if they're having a big concert or any other type of organized activity, and they can use an app like this that just generates all these great, amazing pictures all at once, then I think it becomes really interesting. As a day-to-day kind of thing, I'm not in love with it. However, who knows, Sarah? Maybe I'll be using it soon too. We'll see.
Who knows, indeed. But yeah, so I mean, that's color. Color is it's compelling. It's got something there. I think that's something that we haven't mentioned yet, but a lot of other people have talked about is the idea that Color got a really large round of funding, $41 million, before they even launched. These are some well-known folks who are working at the company. One of the gentlemen who started Lala, which of course Apple bought last year. Guy from LinkedIn, and it's a good group of people. And from all accounts, they're a well-respected bunch of folks. That said, everyone's like, I mean, what kind of, nonsense is this much money for something that people don't really understand how to use right off the bat? It's getting a lot of mixed reviews. It's like, what? How much money do you need to launch something like this?
It's a ton of money. So, I mean, I guess, it isn't going to be the end of Color, right? We're going to hear a lot more about it in the months to come, maybe even years to come, since they do have a ton of money behind them. Sarah, what is this thing? I just read your Twitter message about Verizon.
Oh my gosh, yes. So anybody who had missed my whole Verizon debacle, this is kind of just so okay. So let me set this up, right? So I'll start from the beginning. I trust me that it's not too long of a story, but what ended up happening was Verizon had overcharged me on a bill. I just switched to Verizon recently, and I did so because I had a lot of issues being able to use my own phone in my own house with AT&T. So, it's the common complaint and a common reason why people switch to Verizon. But my first bill came, and it was just a mess. And I got on the phone with somebody. I spent, better part of 2 hours talking to them. Had to talk to the supervisor, which is always, I never try to be that guy, but it was one of these situations where I wasn't getting through to him. I talked to her. She was nice enough, but they weren't giving me what I needed, and that was a refund for, about $300. So I ended up sending this tweet, and it was in a moment of passionate anger, where I said, Verizon's crap, and I replied them, so I knew that they were going to see it. I knew what I was doing, and I was angry about overcharge as well. It turns out that Verizon has quite a few online Twitter accounts, and several of them got back to me, and I couldn't really figure out why it wasn't just one single account. Regional, I guess wireless is a different department. So kind of long story short, because I had complained on Twitter, a lot of folks from Verizon, even though they weren't really talking to each other, were talking to me, and I ended up getting someone who said, please follow us so we can DM you. We really want to help you work through this. Clearly you have some followers on Twitter. You're talking about us in a bad way. We want to make this right. Somebody ended up calling me. She called me 3 times because the first 2 times I was doing TNT, so I didn't even hear the phone ring. And the 3rd time I picked up, hello, yes, it's Verizon. We just wanted to make sure that we understand your problem. I told her the problem in a very short form. And she went, yes, Miss Lane, we understand that we were in the wrong here, and we've wiped all your charges. And so it was like, it wasn't that I was trying to get out of paying a bill or anything like that. I mean, I owed them money. I just didn't owe them the money that they said they owed. And all I really had to do was complain on Twitter, and I shouldn't have even called customer service in the first place, which it works out. I think my story ended up ending well, but I think for all the people who don't use something like Twitter to, I don't know, leverage some power, you might be missing out. I mean, maybe talking to someone who doesn't understand your problem and quite frankly doesn't care about your problem on the phone is not the best way to spend a couple of hours.
I've had the same experience, with some brands out there where if I'm really frustrated, I mean, it's particularly with any type of telco, if I go to Twitter, I get a much faster answer and faster response and sort of course of action than if I were actually to call up and go on hold for a while. I mean, and I think for companies out there who are doing this and who are monitoring their reputation online, it's a wonderful thing. And I mean, I think your example is a perfect example of how companies need to be so timely. They need to answer people within a certain time frame or they just get frustrated. So definitely a good story. And hopefully more customer service will be done on Twitter. I think Comcast was one of the first companies to push really hard and with their Comcast Cares account and be a really great example of customer service done well through the Twitter platform.
Yeah, it's funny. In our chat room, a few people are saying, well, I mean, aren't they only caring about you because you complained on Twitter and they don't want bad PR? Well, yes, exactly. I mean, this is the sort of thing that we need to hold companies accountable to. Frankly, I will use any avenue that I can get if I believe that I've been wronged somehow. And even if, yes, deep down inside, they don't care about giving us the money back, it's like, I mean, we're working with businesses, and it's really in our best interest to figure out what's the best way to get a company's attention if you've hit a wall and get the help and the support that you need from them. So in my case, it was Twitter. And I'm sure a lot of people have their own stories. And if you do, you should write us and tell us what the stories were. Our email address is thesocialhour@twit.tv. Yay, our first email plug.
And I think it'll inspire people, hopefully, to tell us their success stories, but also help teach other people who are out there who are trying to figure out how to manage their Twitter account for a company. What do we do and how are we supposed to be effective? Because that's a big question I know people have all the time.
Totally.
This is kind of a fun Twitter story. New research finds that 20% of elite Twitter users actually generate half of the tweets that are sent out on Twitter.
All right,
so small community.
So how many? So who's an elite Twitter user anyway?
I know. I'm looking down this list right now to see if they name some people. So they do have top 5 users in 4 different categories. I guess there's about 20,000 users that fall into this elite group. Now for celebrities, it's Ashton Kutcher, Lady Gaga, The Ellen Show. For media in New York Times, Time Magazine, and CNN. Organizations, Google, Starbucks, Twitter, of course. And for blogs, Mashable, ProBlogger, Deuce, and a couple of others as well made it to that list. So I think we've seen studies like this before, Sarah, where they talk about how really it is a small group who is tweeting a lot and who would generate the most amount of traffic and conversation online. But it was funny to see it looked at as this number, 20,000 people, this kind of core group of Twitter elite users, as they like to call them.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely found quite a while ago that my click-through rate, it's very easy to see if you tweet something, how many people actually click on the link. And it really is, I mean, for me, it's such a smaller amount of users than the amount of users that are technically following me. I mean, the people who are following me, I mean, I'm somewhere in the 40,000s, and that seems like, wow, that's a lot of people, and I'm obviously proud of that. But I don't have even 10,000 people ever click on anything that I send. And I know that... Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to, it just brought something to my mind. We've had Guy Kawasaki on the show before, and Guy is one of those people who, as he explained in a recent interview I did with him, I'm like a fire hose. If you don't like a lot of content, don't follow me on Twitter. And he actually sends out the same tweet 3 or 4 times over the course of 24 hours. And his reasoning is that the reality is that many people will miss his tweet, the first time he sends it. So he figures he'll send it 3 or 4 times, and then he gets the most traffic because, obviously it's added up over time in terms of the number of times he sends it out. And he said it's a very small group of people who actually will unsubscribe to him, who are irritated by how many times he tweets the same thing. And I think it's I don't do it because I would feel really annoying. He doesn't care, obviously, and has a huge community following him. But it is a really interesting topic. Is that too much if you tweet something 3 or 4 times? But like you said, if you only have, for me, if I tweet something out, maybe if I get a few hundred people who have clicked on the link, maybe 1,000 people if it's something really compelling, there are so many more people in my network who just didn't see my message because of the way Twitter works.
Yeah, I agree. I think people seem to fall into 2 camps. There's definitely the Guy Kawasaki model where it's like, listen, I need to get the message out. This is the way that I talk to as many people as possible. You see a lot of this. Other folks use if you missed it last night, here's the reminder of this story that I wrote that the people will say, a lot of you may have been asleep when I sent this out the first time, so here's the link again. And that seems like it would be very effective because maybe I don't always go back into my Twitter stream and read everything that happened since the last time I was reading. So yeah, we do miss links. At the same time, there have been people who have kind of bugged me a little bit, and I've even unfollowed some folks where it's like, it's just too repetitive, and I get what they're doing. It's standing out too much for me, and so I have to kind of dial back on the noise that I'm getting. Sure. Yeah. But it's the folks who, Deuce, great example. Heather Armstrong, who runs Deuce.com, anybody who's not familiar with her, she is a force of nature online. And it's just, I think sometimes someone hits a home run and not really on purpose. There's so many factors that go into someone becoming so popular on Twitter. Ashton Kutcher had a race with CNN to get to 1 million followers, and so I think he had more of a hand. Well, he had a complete hand in the whole thing, but this was something that he meant to do, and it wasn't sort of a fluke accident type of a thing. But he also wasn't one of Twitter's earliest adopters either. So some of the tech folks who have been really successful on Twitter, it's amazing that they're as prolific as they are and continue to be as popular as they are. Yeah,
they just keep building and building people following them. So, and I don't know, how many people do you follow, Sarah?
I follow about 3 in the 300s, and I've found that it used to be. It's funny. I was just thinking about this the other day. I used to be at about 200, and I tried really hard not to follow people that I didn't know, except Deuce is one of the people I follow that I don't know, but very few people because I just want it to be very relevant to me. And over time, you meet folks, and sometimes you follow back to be nice, and there's all sorts of reasons that the numbers crept up. And I'm getting to I think a threshold where there are not enough tweets that are actually relevant to me, and I feel like I need to cut back a little bit just to keep my experience positive. There's so many social networks where it's like you really need to figure out what is your threshold before you're just annoyed all the time, and then not worry too much about hurting anyone's feelings because it's all about enjoying it. And, on Twitter, if I was to follow 400 people, I don't even think I would read it that often because it'd just be like, oh gosh, none of this stuff. Yeah, it doesn't affect me. Same thing with Facebook, and people have different approaches.
I know. I think I'm following almost 4,000 people now.
What?
And I can't follow that many people.
I can't.
You
are?
Yeah.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Part of it, Sarah, was when I first signed on to Twitter, and I'm sure there's lots of people out there who have done this, where I first started and then I used to follow people back. So in the early days of Twitter, my first, say, 10,000 followers, I followed a lot of those people back. And and so I naturally, you get to a point, and it's not like you're going to go in at this point and start unfollowing. I'm not going to unfollow 3,500 people.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I miss stuff all the time. And it's one of those things now, Twitter has become such a popular way for people to communicate that one of my friends will send something and say, well, Amber, I posted that on Twitter. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's I'm drowning in messages. I can't, I check in every once in a while and hope that I see it, or, I'll use some of the Twitter tools, but the reality is it's too many people to follow.
So for you, your point that some folks will be repetitive because they want to make sure that you don't miss their message, for you, that's probably more helpful because you really do have so many signals being thrown at you.
Yeah, it does work. I think in that case, it doesn't really bother me because there's so much noise anyway in the community that I follow. So I would never even notice it. If Guy tweeted 20 times a day, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if it would even make a dent in my memory. So it's not too big of a deal. But it's kind of interesting to see, where people sit. There's people I know who don't follow anyone, or just really small groups. But I never got to that point, Sarah.
Speaking of Twitter, and I'll just say this once because I've actually gotten a big kick out of it. Amber, you may or may not be aware that during the movie Black Swan, Natalie Portman had a body double. She is a ballerina who works with the American Ballet Theater. It's a very prestigious ballet theater in New York. That ballerina's name is Sarah Lane, and she spells it just like mine. I'm older than her, so technically I had the name first, but whatever. We're not the only two Sarah Lanes in the world. However, turns out that she's a little miffed these days that she wasn't thanked by Natalie more profusely or at all, I guess, in her Oscar speech. And
another angry ballerina.
Angry ballerina, I know, the wrath. And so I've known about the ballerina for a long time because she pops up in my Google alerts because we have the same name and she's a good dancer and this and that. And I knew that she was the body double, but just recently it's almost as if some like gag order had been lifted because now she's talking to everybody and anybody. And I am being harassed on Twitter by people who think that at Sarah Lane is the ballerina. For example, this man, he wasn't even being mean. He was just talking to the ballerina like, hey, you should be happy that you were someone's body double at all, and you're not the actress, and kind of get over yourself type of a thing. So I've been writing these people back, and I mean, part of me is like, this is sort of a waste of time because I think some people are just generally confused and they will have no idea what I'm doing, that I'm a whole different person. But it's a case of mistaken identity, and it's very frustrating, and I can't imagine how frustrating it might be for people who have, one name Twitter handles where they're being mistaken for someone else constantly. And it's like, what do? Do you try to correct everybody? I mean, that would take all day.
Okay, now your Black Swan tweet made sense because I think I saw it and I was just like, what is that all about?
Yes, that's exactly what it was. And that actually, it kind of worked against me because I think that anyone who didn't see that I was joking and has no idea who I as a person am, read that tweet, maybe someone linked to it and was like, oh, okay, this ballerina's on Twitter, so now it's time to berate her. So I'm not the ballerina. We just have the same name. Yeah, it's
so funny. Well, so last thing I'm going to say about Twitter is that while we were chatting, I noticed that Guy Kawasaki's all top popped up in my Twitter feed twice. So maybe I take back that comment that I wouldn't even notice because there's a couple tweets from him, obviously not the same tweet. And then, of course, Charlie Sheen has popped up in my Twitter feed once again. So maybe I need to maybe following a lot of people is okay, Sarah. I actually do see stuff.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's all what you make of it, isn't it? Twitter.
Exactly. Sarah, question for you, because someone has just asked us on Twitter what our email address is again.
Our email address is thesocialhour@twit.tv. If for any reason you like brevity, you can also email tsh@twit.tv. We use abbreviations for a lot of our shows, and so even though we're not calling this TSH, I feel like, if that's what you prefer, they'll go to the same place. Also, a reminder that if you're watching live, you already know the answer, but if you're not watching live and you want to watch us live next time, we record on Mondays, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, which is very exciting for Amber because she doesn't have to stay up so late anymore. And we're on a whole different day, and we're almost like starting off the week at TWiT, so it's really cool. I'm into it. I love doing stuff earlier.
It's a great day to be doing all this social stuff, and wow, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, Sarah.
I know we do. Before we get on to, we're going to have to stop dropping things. That's the way it goes. It's like, it's almost like the land of TV again, where we're like, we don't have time. We must drop a story. I want to thank really quickly Go to My PC. They're our very first sponsor. We've got 2 sponsors on our first show. So thanks to Go to My PC. If you're not familiar with Go to My PC, it is so helpful because we talk about services in the cloud all the time, and there's just going to be more of that. But let's be honest, sometimes there's a file or a program that's only on one computer, and it's not the computer that you're sitting at, and you need to access that computer, and that's where Go to My PC comes in. If you just, on the computer that you want to be able to access remotely, you go to My PC, you sign up, and you get a code. At that point, that's the code that you will use anytime you're in. You can be anywhere. You can be on top of a mountain or, at the bottom of the sea. If you've got internet access and you can access GoToMeeting from a remote location, you can take control of that computer that you forgot to turn off or you forgot to upload a file to your mom from. or you really need because you've got to access iPhoto or a host of other things, go to my PC. It be the best. And they are a sponsor on the show today. You can try them out free for 30 days, which is key because obviously these sorts of things, you have to make sure that they're going to work for you. If after 30 days you love it, sign up and tell them TWiT sent you. Offer code is TWiT. We'll get the social hour offer code at some point. But for now, just go to mypc.com, offer code TWiT. We thank them so much for their support of the show. And it's really a perfect sponsor for us, Amber, because I don't know about you, but I am constantly being like, wait, what laptop am I using? Oh, wait, no, that's on my iPad. And by the way, Mac or PC, too. So if you're a Windows user, we're not leaving you out in the cold, and likewise if you're a Mac user as well. So thanks to them. What else is going on in the land of social, anyway?
So probably one of the biggest news headlines, and every week we're going to touch on something that happens on Facebook because they do unveil something new almost every single week or have some issue, whether it's with privacy or another story coming out of the company. This one is Facebook has launched questions for page owners. So people who own a page on Facebook, they'll be able to go in and use the questions tool to ask a question to their community online, which is pretty interesting, I think, especially for brands out there. We all know that the question space has been exploding online with sites like Cora. So a company can go and ask a question. If you're an ice cream store, you can ask what flavor of ice cream should I sell this week, and just being able to kind of pull your audience who are Facebook fans or like your Facebook page.
Absolutely. I mean, I love this idea. I've always thought that Facebook questions, trying to pull up the page right now, our internet's a little slow here in the studio. I've always thought that the questions area of Facebook could be so much better. I mean, you've got so many folks that can help contribute to a variety of questions and answers, but I didn't really know anybody who was using it very regularly, or it just didn't really, when I would go to my home, my profile home screen and look at the feed of what was going on, there would be kind of questions that were irrelevant to me and were asked maybe by a friend of a friend or something like that. And I don't know. I never used it, and I never really saw the use for it on a specific page, though. I mean, you and I both have Facebook pages. Mm-hmm. I use mine every day. I try to be as interactive as possible, and it's a great way for people to ask me specific questions that then I can answer. And you figure if someone's on your page, which I use for a lot more social activity than my profile even, they're probably interested in my answers a lot more than maybe, one of my business contacts is that's not actually a fan of my page.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of the best ways to get people to interact. I always tell people that when they're looking for, how do I build up my community on my Facebook page, asking a question is just a kind of a no-brainer out there. And, it's funny because at first when Cora came out, that's the site that launched last year, that it allows people to go in, ask questions and get questions answered from the community. At first when it came out, I didn't use it all that much, but now I find myself going there all the time.
Do you really?
Oh, it's so weird. Yeah. For example, the other day I was doing research trying to find out some of the top Tumblr blogs that businesses have started. And I thought, okay, I'll just plug this into Cora and see what it spits out. And I got this great list and all these people commenting on it. So I can't believe the amount of content that's in there right now in terms of being able to ask random questions. So although it's, obviously different than what you're doing on Facebook, just clearly, that we're in an area where asking questions has become such a hot topic.
Totally agree. And I mean, the question space, you mentioned Tumblr. Tumblr has its own built-in Ask Me a Question feature. It's not really something that I use on my Tumblr account, but a lot of people do. Then you've got Cora, which has gotten so much attention lately, and again is really helpful to a certain amount of people. I'm still not a regular Cora user, but you're not my only friend who is, for sure. There's FormSpring, and that's very much like a Ask Me a Question. Almost this Facebook pages questions feature almost seems more like a FormSpring in that it's a designated place to ask one particular person a question and then they answer type of a thing. FormSpring is hit and miss for me too because people can ask you anonymous questions. You can turn that off if you want, but I don't. And so some of the anonymous questions are just like, I don't even really know why they're asking me what they're asking me. And so it's more sort of like fun than it is useful, but obviously it's all it's all what you want to share and what you want to publish. And I think Facebook's really smart by getting into the question space. I mean, they seem to adopt everything else that is hot online as far as social activity goes. And so if they know that people are flocking to Cora like you and saying, I'm really getting something out of this, then it's
they just roll it in.
Yeah, exactly. It won't be long before they add in their own kind of features.
So, okay, Sarah.
Yes.
Rebecca Black. I have avoided talking about Rebecca Black for a very long time now, even though, obviously I'm very familiar with her videos.
And we won't play the video. So anyone who's about to get mad at us, don't worry. We're not going to play Friday, the Rebecca Black hit.
I honestly, the first time I saw it, I write for a national newspaper, and my editor wrote me and said, maybe you should write about this because everybody's talking about it. And I watched the video with Rebecca Black, people who don't know it, this young girl who was in this video. And I, like many people, thought it was a joke. I mean, this was the most, or is the most horrible song and video in existence. And that part of me felt bad for her.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think that's, people either, they're sort of embracing the fact that this is a terrible song. It's a young girl who wanted a semi-professional video, paid a company about $2,000 to make something that, I mean, quite frankly, doesn't really look too different than anything that you'd see on MTV. That's kind of cookie cutter type of video. But it's a terrible song, with silly lyrics. And you do feel bad for her because you figure, well, she probably did write all that stuff and just wanted to look cute and have a YouTube video that she could point out to her friends. And it turned into quite a sensation. However, you could also think of it as long as Rebecca Black has thick skin and can handle some jeers, she also might be making quite a bit of money off of this because this is a YouTube video that, I mean, has about 50 million views now. 50 million? Wow. That's really insane. I mean, it's hard to get that many views.
Insane or disturbing.
insane and disturbing, yeah. So there was actually a Mashable article that was asking a very interesting question. How much is exactly Rebecca Black making from Friday? And it turns out that it really depends on who you ask, because there was a Forbes article that originally said that she had sold 1 million downloads on iTunes. Turns out that it's only in like the 20,000s. So still getting money from that, certainly, but not $1 million. She's not a millionaire.
If you ever want to read something hilarious, you have to, I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Lefsetz.
I'm not.
He's fantastic, Sarah, and anyone else who is listening, you just love him. He basically, he critiques the music industry, and he writes this online newsletter that he's been doing for a very long time. I subscribe to it and have for years. It's kind of the only one that I actually read. Mm-hmm. And he talks about Rebecca Black, and he'll obviously not make fun of her, but just say, in some cases, and this is a situation where someone in her family, somehow she has access to too much money. And someone along the way made her believe that she could be a star. And that's just kind of this new world that we're living in. And I really recommend anyone checking out the Lefsetz letter. I think it's just lefsetz.com to see what else he has to say, because it's hopefully, I don't know, I think this is the beginning of many more situations like this, Sarah.
I think so too. I mean, YouTube makes $1 per 1,000 page views, and you figure that Rebecca Black's family paid this company. It's called the Arc Music Factory. Those are the folks that actually put together this polished video package for her. They gave them some money off the bat. I don't know if they get any sort of the proceeds from residual income. Who knows? But of that, when you factor all of that in, still they're probably only taking away, a little under 50 grand. So, hey, for something that was sent out on a lark, I mean, they certainly got their money's worth and they got some money back. But it's not as if this sort of, it's kind of, so this is sort of what I think is sad about this whole thing, is that she makes, she gets so many people to watch this video. And part of it was just completely out of her control. I mean, it's not as if this was a marketing machine. It got away from them. And, 50 million people watch this video. And she gets a lot of attention, and a lot of people make fun of her, and she makes a little bit of money. I mean, she's 13, so I guess it's her parents making the money. And is it really worth it? I mean, is she going to be a star? I'd be really surprised if we saw another hit from Rebecca Black. What do you think?
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know if this falls in the category of hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't, you know what? I really don't know. I just, I feel just sorry for her because I just think of myself being you were a teenager and thinking about even, one criticism that she may read on YouTube. As much as she may have thick skin, it's kind of a rough age for girls, and I don't envy her. However, she could be that kid who just is wallowing in all this fame and doesn't care how she got it. And maybe she wants to do something else. Or it could be, and I'm just waiting for this is all a joke and some company came up with this and it's actually like a brand behind it. But I don't think that's the case.
I don't think it's the case either because we know so much about how this all got made. I mean, she wanted to make a video and the company got paid, and there are companies who have done similar things for other wannabe pop sensations.
Yeah.
She was just the one that got the most attention.
Yes.
But if this was some sort of marketing, I don't know who would even be behind it. YouTube themselves.
I'm just a dreamer, Sarah.
Yeah, I like the way you think. I do. That would
so,
be.
Sarah, what is this image stabilization? I haven't seen this.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm trying to pull it up on the page right now. For some reason, we're having problems loading YouTube videos on the YouTube blog. It should come up in here. Anyway, this is something that I found last week, and it was perfect for the show, and especially since we're already talking about YouTube. I mean, everyone knows that uses YouTube anyway, that you can upload a variety of different videos. I mean, pretty much anything that isn't already copyrighted, you can use to create a video on YouTube, and anyone can make an account. What they have that some people utilize, although I think a lot of people don't even know about, is their own video editor. So you can use very popular effects like dissolves and fades, and you can add graphics and make something that, and this is cloud-based, and make something that is, I mean, it's not like having Final Cut Pro, which is obviously a very robust editing system, or an example of one in front of you, but it gives somebody who's got nothing more than a YouTube account and an internet connection a way to make videos a little bit richer. And they've got, I mean, quite a few kind of cool features. Video transitions, you can rotate video, you can mix audio. If there's a lot of back noise, you can try to clean that up a little bit. So it gives people who don't have access to expensive video editing systems, which, I mean, they're all pretty expensive. I mean, they're going to set you back a few $100. Unless it's the new iMovie on the iPad, which is awesome.
It is really slick, huh?
It is really slick, and it's $5. But here is, okay, good. It loaded now. So here is YouTube. What they did was they said, we added image stabilization. So anybody who's not familiar with that knows that if you take a really shaky video, then it's hard to watch. I mean, this is a video that someone, I don't know, they took on their street. It looks like the East Coast somewhere because there's a lot of brick. And they're zooming in and out, and they're panning left and right, and it's just kind of, you feel a little motion sick, okay? So you get the idea. Well, that is an unstabilized raw version, and then this is stabilization that went to YouTube. This is the exact same video clip. Look at that. It's not moving at all. It's amazing. And this is something that YouTube, the way that they describe it is, when you send them the request, this is the video clip, and you say, YouTube, stabilize this. They have so many servers and so much power that they actually make that request and chop it into a bunch of little bytes and have a bunch of servers render the same request simultaneously so that you actually get this really nice souped up version of some very shaky video that might have been unusable or just not worked for your project before. This is all free stuff. So
that's awesome.
It's really cool. Yeah, I was impressed. Yeah, sometimes you think image stabilization, how much is it really going to help? And sometimes it makes the video look kind of weird. It's stabilized, but it's not really like the video that you originally shot.
Or something.
I was very impressed by this. I thought it looked awesome.
That is very cool because the reality is there's a ton of bad, shaky videos on YouTube.
That's for sure.
A lot of people need a lot of help, I think, in that area. Now, this sound tracking app, I really am dying to try this out. I hadn't even heard of it before, Sarah.
Sound tracking is great. This is actually made, it's not just one person, but a friend of mine named Steve Jang, who has been in the Silicon Valley space for a long time. He is one of the folks behind the app. Oop, we want this camera. See, I'm not too bad, am I, people? Okay, so sound tracking app. I'll just show you. It's easier to show you than tell you about it. So this is the interface. Okay, sorry that it's kind of close. I will do better next time. Let's go to my feed. These are the folks that I am following on. I think I connected to Twitter and Foursquare. Sound tracking will let you off the bat connect to Twitter, Foursquare, and Facebook. to give you easy access to some of your friends. So these are all folks that have soundtracked a song. So this is something that I soundtracked on Saturday. So I'll just go ahead and click into it because I know what it is. But see, I'm still trying to figure out how this works here. I soundtrack this. Oh, I know what it is because I'm looking at myself. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you a better version of this. This is what that I just clicked on would look like to my followers. So they get a link from soundtracking. So this is, if you weren't within the app itself, they get a link to Juicy by Notorious B.I.G., which I don't want to play because it's, it's kind of dirty. And I want to make sure that we don't cuss on the show at all. But I played this song, and this is something that I picked up at a party where we were eating chicken wings. This is the same party from my color party, so we were being very silly that night. We had cupcakes and M&Ms and chicken wings. And if you're kind of like, well, I don't really understand what the point of this is, the point is that if you're playing a song and you want to share that song with the world, it could be something that's playing on your iPod. So let's say you're at the gym and you're like, oh, I really love the song. I'm not playing anything on my iPod right now, but if I was, it would automatically pick that up. Or you could search for a song. If you're like, oh, I used to love that song by, I don't know, Santana, and I want to share that with somebody right now. Or the best part is the music ID feature, and that's where it's trying to listen for a song that isn't playing right now because I'm not playing anything. But if I were, it works the way that an app like Shazam works, where it takes the musical information from whatever is the ambient noise around you. You have to be careful. It's going to say it hasn't found anything, I'm sure, because I can't imagine I would be talking the way a song would sound. Yeah, unfortunately, they weren't able to find a match because, again, we're not playing a song. But I have found that, and I've played around with this in a variety of settings, some, loud bar or iPod or, just a song that was playing on my Sonos system in my house where there's not too much interference. And it's pretty good at picking up stuff. They also have some kind of fun, I feel like the app world, they get into these situations where they have to do something different. So Soundtrack is now allowing people to like or love someone's soundtrack. So you can decide, oh, I love what Sarah soundtracked, or nah, I just like it. So I'm not really sure what the point of that is. You see like, love down here or comment here. But I guess that they're just trying to come up with something unique and different to set them apart from all the other likers out there.
So it's basically so you're basically tweeting kind of your, because it calls it the soundtrack to your life, right? So the idea is sort of what song is, getting you excited or you're enjoying at that moment.
Totally, yeah. I'm probably not explaining it very well because people are like, what is the point of all of this? The point is that I think a lot of people who are music fans agree that sometimes a song will just evoke an emotion, or it's a great memory, or you think, oh, Amber she would just love to hear a little clip of this right now. So when I soundtrack something and you and I are connected on Soundtrack, or I send you the link, you get a 30-second clip of the song.
Okay.
You can't just listen to the song because that would be like me sharing a song that I don't have access to share with you. So what soundtracking will have to do in the future is get deals with labels to be able to play music and have some sort of a cloud-based service. Obviously, they're just in their infancy, but it's not too different than you might recall a company called Blip FM. We're doing, I think that they're still around. I haven't used them in a while, but it was a very similar idea. It was more internet-based. There wasn't an app. But you could share songs with folks, but sometimes companies would come in and either take those songs down or replace them with little 30-second clips so that they weren't upsetting any artists. But that's soundtracking. It's very cool. Music people will love it. Some people will not find a need for it, and it is iPhone only. Again, it's one of those services that they launched in the big South by Southwest rush when so many companies had to put their product out because they wanted to get attention. Yeah. A lot of these companies, they go iPhone first and they don't have Android apps yet, and I know that really upsets a lot of Android users who feel kind of left in the lurch.
Well, hopefully soon. Hopefully they'll have one soon.
I agree. Yeah, it's cool. I like soundtracking a lot. I think they're onto something good. Before we get to the rest of our show, Amber, I want to ask you about something called FreshBooks, because I know that you are a busy woman. You do a lot of traveling, and I assume that means with all of your jobs that you juggle, and I don't know how you do that with, a family at home and everything, but you seem to do well, is all of your invoicing, because invoicing is a pain in the rear.
You know what, Sarah? This may sound corny, but today I was walking through I freelance for a TV station in Toronto, and I was walking through the hallways, and this woman who came up to me, she said, Amber, I'd like to get your invoice by the end of the week because I'm doing my month's end. And I said to her, that won't be a problem because I'm using FreshBooks and it's so easy for me to invoice. I actually said those words to her, and I was being totally honest. Even when I look at my computer right now, I have FreshBooks as one of my bookmarks, and it's just a place for people who run their own businesses. If you're a freelancer, it makes all of your invoicing really, really simple. So you can go in, you can add your clients, and if it's a client who you do a lot of work with, then it's so easy to go in and then just send an invoice to that particular client. It does things like helps you calculate all the taxes. You can send reminders. A lot involved in this web application. You can also do things like time tracking. So if you're working with a certain client and you
hourly rates,
you have an hourly rate. If you're a web designer, it's fantastic too. And I know some companies that are, they're not large companies, but they're good sized companies who are using FreshBooks for everything. So I use it personally. I have a small social media agency, and we use FreshBooks as well. And it has saved all of us. I mean, it's just so streamlined, so organized, and I highly recommend it. I've been using it for years.
FreshBooks will also, for anybody who's like, well, but how am I going to get my money if I'm invoicing companies? Because everybody does things differently. I mean, they'll allow you to use PayPal or 11 other electronic payment services. I didn't even know that there were 11. You can, a client can use a credit card. That's fine too. Or if you're an old school person or you're working with old school people, you can actually have checks mailed to you. It's a small extra fee, but it's definitely something that FreshBooks will allow you to do if that's the way you prefer to work with a certain company or all your companies. I mean, it's all about keeping track of your money. It's great. iPhone app. There's an iPhone app that will, it'll help you keep track of your invoicing if you're an on-the-go person. Again, Amber, you're a great example. You're almost like the FreshBooks perfect example of somebody who's like everywhere all the time and needing to keep track of their life and who needs to be billed and how you get your money back.
And that was always a pain for me. I hated invoicing. I hated going into a Word document and creating an invoice from scratch and then trying to remember, I had to go back and see have they paid. This just makes it really simple. Once I get a check or they pay me, I just go in and click a button, paid in full, and files it away. And then I can give all this information to my accountant for tax time. And it looks like I'm extremely organized.
And you did say the magic 2 words just then, and that was tax time. I don't know about you, but I haven't finished my taxes yet. And I'm really worried about it. Or I guess, it's different for you guys in Canada, huh? April 15th is just any other day.
Well, we still have to get our taxes done in April, but for me, it's a total stress, and I hate dealing with it.
It's the worst. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to be as organized as possible going into something like this. So if you do anything that requires any sort of invoicing, and even if you don't, but you think, I don't know, is this something that could, help me out and just get me back on track? And when it comes to financials, I don't know. I just go with the service that's the easiest. Just go to freshbooks.com, sign up for a free account. That's all you have to do. Check it out. It'll let you use a few invoices for free and just get a sense of the service and if it's the right thing for you. And that's all you really have to do. And when you sign up at FreshBooks, tell them that we sent you. TWiT or the Social Hour or anything like that, just so they have a sense of who got brought to them and by whom. And they're also doing something that's a little bit crazy. The only company I've ever heard of who gives away a birthday cake a day. It doesn't have to be your birthday. It's actually they have a drawing. So if you sign up right now, your name goes into this drawing. And FreshBooks is going to, pick a name out of a hat every day, basically. And if they pick your name, they send you a birthday cake. A real birthday cake that you can eat. And it might be made of chocolate. Awesome. And it doesn't even have to be your birthday. So it's just a everyday cake. It's a cake for all seasons kind of thing. I love that. I like it when companies do fun things like that. It's a fun incentive. You get a cake and you get to invoice the people that owe you money. So everybody wins.
All good.
Thanks, FreshBooks. FreshBooks.com. Check them out. So what else do we have to talk about? Oh, I know. This is awesome, Amber. So I was talking about Instagram earlier.
Yeah.
You're an Instagram user, but you definitely don't use it as much as I do.
No, I don't. And that's because I have a BlackBerry and an iPhone, so I constantly go between them. And so, I'll use it if I have my iPhone, but I love it. Every time I use it, I think I need to use this more. I love Instagram.
Instagram is great. It is sadly still iPhone only. I know the guys who work at Instagram. In fact, we talked to them on Net at Night. I don't know, however many months ago. Or Leo and I did. I think that you were out of town, Amber. And they have grown so much since then. And I know that they're working on an Android app. It just hasn't happened yet. But we were also talking about Facebook pages. And so this is kind of the perfect little trick for somebody who has a Facebook page and might want to send pictures just to that page rather than their Facebook profile. So what I've done here, and you have to use the most recent version of Instagram because this is a new feature that is only in their most recent update. So if you haven't updated your apps in a while, do that first. At this point, so let me go back just to make sure you didn't miss anything. So let's say I'm in my feed. I'm looking through pictures, and I like pictures. I'm liking and commenting. If I go into my profile area, and then I go into my edit shared settings area, these are all the services that I've connected Instagram to, Facebook being one of them. But I don't really send a lot of photos to my Facebook profile. I either go Flickr, or I go Twitter if I think it's like funny enough to share with a large group of people, or sometimes I'll attach it to a Foursquare check-in. But I don't use Facebook that much. It's not really my place where I dump a lot of photos. But to post to my Facebook wall is something that I don't use very much. But if I wanted to choose a page, so this is the new feature on Instagram. It says, okay, I recognize you, Sarah Lane, by your Facebook credentials, but you also have two pages. One is Sarah Lane, and that is actually my page. And then a silly thing that I made called That's So Meta that I never really used, but I thought it was funny at the time. But anyway, so I've now chosen the Facebook page that I want to send my pictures to. So this is, you think to yourself, okay, great. Some of us don't have Facebook pages. But what if you were a company, let's say you had a flower shop, and you wanted to use your iPhone, you only have one iPhone, you like the idea of Instagram, but you're just not really like this overshare, but maybe your Facebook page is really popular and you can take a picture of flowers with a cool filter and just send it to that page every day. This totally takes out the step of having to figure out how to get that Instagram to your Facebook page some other way. Because before it would have required at least a few more steps to import it somewhere else and upload it. So I thought that was pretty handy.
That is very cool. I will use that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you have your favorite thing. I have my favorite thing before we wrap the show. My favorite thing is this service called Zobni that has been out for a while. They've had an Outlook and BlackBerry tool. Now they've just launched Zobni for Gmail. It's in a beta right now. You can request an invite, and it's so cool. I think it was Read Write Web that described it as adding X-ray vision to your inbox. I love it. So this is how it works. For example, when I go into my Gmail account and if I get an email from you, Sarah, then on the right-hand side, there's this really slender little column. That's my Zobni column. And then it says Sarah Lane and it has your picture and other information about you, your contact information. It also has a graph of how often we talk on email. The first time we emailed, if we were possibly introduced to someone via email, then it would include that. It would say, you guys were possibly introduced by Leo Laporte, and then links to your Twitter, Facebook profile, and anywhere else that you've created a profile online. So I have all your information in one place in my Gmail account. So I know, for example, if you send me an email and then I go through and I see on Twitter, you say, okay, I'm just going out to lunch. Well, I'm not going to write you back right away because I know you're really busy or you're not in the office, and I'll wait till later. So it's a way to track all of your relationships with people and just have more context to the emails coming into you, but also to add pictures to emails coming in, even from people you don't know, because they do have profiles on social networking accounts.
Wow. So this is 3D email is kind of a good way to describe it because it's just... I think every day I have so many Gmail accounts that I'm using now. We're going to use Gmail for our show. For iPad Today, I have a Gmail account. I use Google Apps for my saralane.com domain, which acts like Gmail. And then, I have a couple other Gmail accounts. And it's like, honestly, you have all those tabs open now that you can switch back and forth between accounts. But it's a lot of text. And sometimes I'm just really overwhelmed. And it's like, I don't even remember... if I just had a face that might give me a little bit more context in looking at a bunch of names and trying to figure out who I need to reply to first, because starring just, doesn't cut it sometimes. I would really like a tool like this.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've been using it all the time, and I got Chris, my fiance, to request an invite, and he has it in his Gmail account now. And it makes you more productive and makes your entire inbox just that much more interesting.
So it looks like you can use it on there's a BlackBerry app. You can
BlackBerry, Outlook. And Gmail is in beta, and they're coming out with iPhone and Android, but those are going to be, I think, about 90 days away.
Cool. LinkedIn and Facebook updates. I love that. LinkedIn updates are something that I don't check very often because I just don't hang out on LinkedIn that much. I mean, I try to check in somewhat regularly, but most of that stuff is just missed by me because it's just one more thing that I'm not checking. But if it was somehow attached to those folks whom we may be going back and forth about a project or something in our emails anyway, that would be really cool. I think I could get a lot out of that.
Yeah, you need to get an invite. You'll love it.
Zobni.
I'll get you hooked.
Thank you, Amber. I love it. That was a cool tip.
That's
Zobni.
and it's
for anyone who's listening, it's XOBNI. Spelled a little bit weird, but we're all used to that. Everything's spelled weird now.
Yeah. Of course.
Before we go, make sure that you have our information because obviously this show, it's a social networking show, and we want it to be as interactive as possible. So there was a lot of the two of us talking today, but next week we hope to incorporate some of your feedback, questions, comments, anything like that. So you can write us. It's the social hour at twit.tv. And then I also set up a Google Voice account, and it's a little bit, I'm hoping that it's catchy enough to remember, but I'll have to say it a little bit weird. 2626 social. Trust me, Google Voice numbers have now become so popular that it's very hard to get something that's clever and catchy.
Pretty good.
So I thought if you can just remember 2626, then just the word social, and you're good
Sarah
to
and
go.
I are both 26. That's easy.
Right.
26, 26.
And we'll be 26 forever. So, yeah, it's perfect. 2626 SOCIAL. That's how to get a hold of us. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, and I always tell people on iPad Today, even though voicemails and emails are awesome, if you can send us a video and try to keep it under 30 seconds or so, we'd love to see, be able to look at you guys or to see what you're working on or anything like that. So if there's ever a video that you think that could help benefit our show, we'd love to see it. So just upload it somewhere, YouTube or Vimeo or Mobile Me or anything like that. Try not to send us anything that we actually have to download, but a link would be great. And we'll try to feature as many people as possible.
And we should also say, we will be having guests on the show, not necessarily every show, but we will have guests when it's appropriate. And there's, new services in the social space that we want to talk about. And if you have developed any type of tool or app and you want to let us know, that's a great way to get in touch with us by emailing at thesocialhour@twit.tv.
Totally. Absolutely. Well, I guess what we'll do at this point is end with a bang on our wonderful video of the week that you chose, actually. I haven't even seen this, so I will be watching it for the first time, as will, I'm sure, many of our guests. But I guess we'll say goodbye and then roll into the video. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good. So I don't think there's any swear words in it. I watched most of it. This is a spoof video done by Rooster Teeth Productions, who did the series Red vs. Blue, which was and has been enormously successful. They have created a video called Angry Birds the Movie, if Michael Bay directed it, and it's a whole lot of fun.
All right, we will end with Michael Bay directed Angry Birds, and you and I will say goodbye. We'll play us out with Angry Birds. Good first, The Social Hour, episode 1, Amber.
Thanks, Sarah. See you next week.
See you later.
Two of the nation's top ornithologists were found murdered yesterday. It's your mission to infiltrate enemy territory and rescue the eggs that they left behind.
Sir, yes, sir.
When I find the enemy, then what?
Let's just call it our secret weapon. The government's been developing it for years.
It's just a slingshot.
Don't you ever call it just a slingshot.
Billions of dollars in R&D. This will change modern warfare as we know it.
Good God.
Blue for multiples, black for stones, yellow for distance, and white when you're in a bind.
Take the shot.
Target's not clear.
Doesn't matter.
But sir, the target's not...
Take the shot, soldier. Penetrable fortresses made of wood, glass, stone. Sometimes there's dice, or maybe dominoes. I don't really know. It's something with numbers on it.
Sometimes I don't know which side I'm fighting for.
We will not let these pigs destroy this country.
I'm rescuing the eggs, but killing the birds in the process.
These pigs aren't really the enemy.
You spend 10 years in a POW camp, eating their slop, then you come back and tell me they're not the enemy.
I'm all out of ammo, sir.
Is this just some sort of game to you?
No! Yes?